morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you today. An exciting one with lots of interesting topics to discuss. We'll be joined actually in studio. A special guest, Representative Richie Torres, is stopping by to talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill today, this week, and so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, but first we got to start with what's on your radar. I think I might know, but tell us what's on your radar.
You're sensing a theme here. Yes, indeed. CNN's Jake Tapper is making the media rounds, promoting his new book, Original Sin, his book with Alex Thompson, which explains how President Joe Biden's handlers, advisors, and campaign staff, as well as Democratic Party leads and portions of the media, shielded Biden from scrutiny during his presidency. Now, his obvious, appalling cognitive decline was hidden from the press by Chuck Schumer and by Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi and Karine Jean-Pierre and Jen Psaki and his cabinet and Kamala Harris and many, many other people. And now the media is admitting it, finally. But frankly, it's not good enough. Let me be clear. I am glad that some media figures are admitting that they were misled by Biden and that they should have pressed him and his team more aggressively for answers about his diminished cognitive state. Admitting wrongdoing, it's better than not admitting wrongdoing. But the issue is that Biden's health-related collapse was not missed by everyone in the media. It was just missed by the mainstream media. Conservative and independent media, they noticed it and they spoke up about it. And we didn't have nearly the same access to the White House, to Biden, that Jake Tapper did. Here was Megyn Kelly pressing Tapper on this point on her show yesterday. Let's watch.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
Tapper did say that he called Lara Trump to apologize to her for that infamous interview in which he criticized her for noticing Biden's cognitive decline. Remember that? Let's take a stroll down memory lane.
Is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have
to watch somebody on stage
That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses.
Ooh, that interview has not aged well. Tapper was right to apologize for it. He's also right to acknowledge that he's embarrassed that he did not pursue the story more aggressively. But look, this story is not over. Biden just announced that he has cancer. And if you believe what he's saying, that he didn't know until last Friday. This assertion strains credulity for a number of reasons. Look, it's inconceivable to me that the President of the United States, having access to better health care than just about anyone else in the country, would not have had the kind of testing that would have revealed such a condition. And if there was some suspicion of illness that was not followed up upon because it would be inconvenient to the campaign, well, that's a story too. Let's have some mainstream journalists get after it. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is trying desperately to pivot to any other topic. Republicans are coming to take away your health benefits, shouts Hakeem Jeffries. So says he. Honestly, do you believe him? Does anyone? The entire leadership of the party should resign in disgrace. They're complicit in this cover-up, and they are not trustworthy, which is what we are continuing to discuss here today. The Megyn Kelly interview with Jake Tapper was, I think, very interesting. And, I want to be careful here in my criticism because I'm glad Tapper wrote this book with Alex Thompson. I'm glad they're doing these media appearances. Thompson was there as well on the Megyn Kelly show, and they stood up to the heat, as it were, and they admitted some wrongdoing in terms of how they handled this story. So that's all good. It's better for people to admit when they got it wrong than to steadfastly maintain they did nothing wrong. So I appreciate that. What did you make of the interview?
Alex Thompson, I'll give him a pass because he's been covering Biden's health throughout the presidency and the re-election announcement. Now, Jake Tapper. So Naomi Biden, which is Joe Biden's granddaughter, she said something that I thought was really profound yesterday. She said the ones who rarely enter the arena but profit from the spectacle of those that do. And that's what she was referring to Jake Tapper. And so I'm going to bear with me for a second, but if you guys know, Brene Brown has a TED Talk about basically entering the arena and the people that are spectators that always have all the criticisms. Biden gave 50 years of his life to entering the political arena and trying to make change. Jake Tapper is a journalist that was covering Biden, and he now is using a very opportunistic route, which has minimal, damage for him. It's making it low risk, high reward move for him to do at this time when Biden is not running, to be a part of this type of book. When we just saw some of those interviews where he was also, like everyone else, misled and perhaps intentionally doing it, whatever he wants to say. Both times it was opportunistic. To make Laura Trump an embarrassment on his show was opportunistic, and now to write this book. So to me, I think it's very important that in this capitalist world, we understand what's going on. He's trying to make money, and that's very intentional and obvious, but I don't know that it's appropriate to do it on the back of Joe Biden. Like, was Joe Biden actually having this grand scheme to try to scam everybody, or was Joe Biden an older man who actually just believed that after 50 years of resilience and overcoming major health and serious life obstacles, that he could go again? And I think that that's a question we all have to ask ourselves before we try to make out some big scheme that was planned to try to, run the presidency and plan that he was going to pass the torch to Kamala. I don't think all that was there. And I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill. And it's okay to provide space around somebody struggling with a health issue, and understand that sometimes when people get older, they may not be acknowledging that change is so obvious for family and friends and loved ones and staff and colleagues to see.
But don't you think maybe he never came straight out and said it, that I'm going to be a one-term president, but he did stress that he would be a transitional figure to new leadership? I think there was an expectation that he was maybe only going to serve one term. So then it does get a little bit into territory. Well, it was his decision to run again when he shouldn't have. Now, maybe you can put a lot more blame on the people around him, his family members, his senior advisors, giving him bad advice. We're also, some of the reporting in the Tapper book is that he was, reliant on Donlin, this one pollster who was characterizing things in a very rosy way for Biden, even up until the end, where Biden was shocked to hear from other pollsters who represented what most polls showed him, like, starting to be way outside the bounds of even conceivably being able to win re-election. And he was surprised by that because he was using someone who was presenting the numbers to him in the most favorable possible light. That a little bit goes to, the accountability. I also, I was thinking more and talking yesterday with Amber Duke, who hosts the show often on Fridays, about, the timeline of the cancer diagnosis. And the more I think about it, the more I find it really hard to believe that this was not known to Biden and his inner circle months and months ago. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe their line is that it was really missed until last week. I find that so. This person, maybe the average citizen can miss something. These things get missed, but this is someone with much better health care than anybody else, for good reason. He's an important figure. And I just find it so inconceivable. What I find possible is they maybe had some indication because of his health condition. I mean, that could have been what happened too, that he's experiencing some kind of symptoms where they should have checked to see if it was this, and they decide, no, we don't want to know, because if we know, then we got to tell everybody, and then it'll be a huge campaign issue. And so they allow him to linger in some kind of pain. And at that age, pain or discomfort for these reasons, that can actually drive you. That can propel a mental decline very, very, very much as can be the case. We've all had senior citizen relatives who, enter the hospital for a fall or something.
Right.
And then they turn that corner mentally because of that experience. So with all due respect and wanting him to recover fully, I have a lot more questions about the timing of the cancer diagnosis.
I think maybe it was a miscalculation for me instead of a cover-up. But I guess we'll keep trying to find out and get to the bottom of it.
Next up, President Trump thinks fellow Republican Thomas Massie, one of my favorites, should be voted out of office. Stay tuned.